G'day, I'm Steve Hay for Australian Wood Review TV, and what I'm trying to do is work out the metric equivalent of a 4-pound cut for some shellac. I want to mix some shellac up, and I thought I had to get up with the 21st century and become metricated, but you know, some things, they should remain imperial. I don't know if you've heard, but when people are mixing shellac, they say, oh, I use a 4-pound cut or a 6-pound cut or a 2-pound cut. Well, what does it mean? What it is actually is a ratio of how much shellac to how much solvent. Now, the solvent, you can use methylated spirits, but if you can get hold of what they call DAA, which is denatured absolute alcohol, it is a lot better. In my own experience, I find that if I mix shellac with DAA, it will harden and go off a lot quicker than if I'm using metho. But that's an aside. Back to the measurements. A 4-pound mix is 4 pounds of shellac to 1 gallon of solvent. So therefore a 3-pound mix is 3 pounds of shellac to 1 gallon of solvent. Now obviously when you're making some up, you don't have to make a gallon solution. In fact, what I want to do is I've got a little job coming up and I only want a small amount, so I'm going to make a 4-pound cut, but I'm going to make it in a much smaller measurement. So instead of using 4 pounds, I only want to use 1/4 pound. So if you can do the maths, a 4-pound cut with a gallon, old measurements, is 4 pounds equals 8 pints. So 1 pound equals 2 pints. So 1/2 pound equals a pint, 1/4 pound equals 1/2 pint. That's what I'm going to make up now. In fact, I have written the metric equivalents down, but they don't sound as nice. In metric is 113 grams to 284 mils. Thank goodness there's conversion charts. Okay, so what we do first, a little bit about shellac. There's various sorts of shellac. You can get, this is a blonde de-wax shellac, which is very, very good if you're using it over a light timber and you don't want it to discolour or go dark. Then this is a straight shellac. A straight shellac has wax in it and it will give you an orangey colour. In fact, it's also referred to as orange shellac. This by far is the most common shellac used nowadays. My favourite in the workshop is de-wax blonde because I find it's got more applications. There are a couple of others. There's button lac, which is red, and there's garnet lac, which is deep red. And in the old days, they used to use garnet lac when they were using it on mahogany to get that nice, deep, rich red colour. Okay, so let's mix up some shellac. So I've got some scales. I grabbed these scales, but they just don't, not accurately measuring that small amount that I want. So, as ever, went up to the kitchen, made sure the wife wasn't there, and I've nicked her scales, but I'm going to have to clean them before I put them back. So, put that on, zero it. I'm actually measuring, I don't know if you can see that at all, but I'm measuring this in ounces because it works better for me. So there's 16 ounces to a pound. If I'm using 1/4 pound, that's 4 ounces. And you can do the conversion to metric if you wish. Don't need a calculator anymore. Calculators everywhere. All right, so I'm going to use orange shellac and I want 4 ounces. So I've zeroed this. I just tip this in. There you go. 4 ounces of shellac. Now, if you get an old jar, one of these big old coffee jars are good value. Tip the flakes in there. Now it's just a question. Tip the alcohol into the shellac. Put the lid on. Put a shake around so it all gets absorbed. Now we'll just let that sit for about a day and it'll all start to melt to a really, really thick shellac base, which is a 4-pound cut. From there, I'll show you how to break it down so you can use it as a 1-pound cut or a 2-pound cut when you've got your job ready. Well, as you can see, we've let the stock sit for 24 hours and now It's all dissolved into a nice orangey brown liquid. Now you don't have to decant it all down in one go. You can cut it down piece by piece, and that's what I'm going to do because I don't want to use a huge amount, I only want a small amount, so I'm going to cut it down to a 1 pound mix so I can use it. Now what I did, grab the jar. You can get some jars with incremental measurements on the side. This one doesn't, but if you're going to break a 4 pound mix into a 1 pound mix, you have to divide your container into thirds, and that's what I've done. I've got a measuring cup, put any amount in, and then divide it into thirds. In this case, I use the measurement of a cup. So that's 1 cup, 1.5 cups to there, that's half a cup to there. When you're breaking 4 pound to 1 pound, it's a 2 to 1 ratio. So it's 2 parts DAA or solvent and 1 part stock. And what I've done to make things easier, I've already measured off, pop this out of the way, I've already measured off 1 cup of solvent, which is DAA. So now all I've got to do is tip some of this stock into this jar, and then I'll break it down. Now in order to do that, it's a good idea if you can get hold of one of these paint filters. Most paint shops and hardware shops have it. They've got a gauze in the bottom of it, so what it'll do, it'll allow the stock to go through, but inside here there is a lot of insect legs, leaf matter, bits and pieces that really we don't need. So if you strain it through this, it'll get rid of most of it. Put that into the funnel, take the lid off the stock, turn it around so I can see the mark, and you just pour in. It's got to come up to this level here, so we might be putting a bit more in. As you can see, that filter lets it flow through, but keeps all the nasties out. If you need to, you can free up it a little bit by just popping a pencil in there, and it just clears a bit of the gauze away. We're nearly there. Okay. Now we're on the line. What I do is pick it up, put your finger under the funnel, and then just tip the rest back into your stock. Now, so I can use this filter again, I've already measured out DAA in this container, so if I put it through here, it'll clean the gauze. Still won't allow all the rubbish to go in, but it's cleaned it sufficiently that I can use it again some other time. If you can look at that, see how the gauze has been cleaned out. Put that somewhere safe. All right, now put the lid on, nice and tightly, give it a bit of a shake, and there you have 4 pound cut of stock, 1 pound cut to use. So I hope that was of some help, and you might try something different. You can use French polishing with this one. You've got to break it down on the rubber, or you can apply it straight from the jar just using a brush or a sponge. Okay, well that's it. Steve pulling the shed door down for yet another week and saying remember to keep it sharp, but more importantly keep it safe and enjoy your woodwork. Bye for now.